This is just an audio check for the TradeXchange insider transactions and filings for the TradeXchange forum and Squawk service. We'll be beginning momentarily. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the TradeXchange Insider Transactions and Filings webinar for the TradeXchange Forum and Squawk Service members and subscribers. We are built for traders by traders. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. This is meant to be a rather brief introduction into insider transactions and filings. And we'll jump right in. This recording will, it is a recording, so you will be able to check back into this web address and watch this presentation again. So just to keep in mind. Also, if you have any questions, we are certainly available via email at thetradexchange@thetradexchange.com. And so let's jump right into, in a very, very brief introduction, who we are. We are a trader research team with a combined of 60 plus years of market experience. And what's the objective here? We supply research in the form of technical and fundamental knowledge to traders and active investors. So, and when we're discussing this type of information, specifically today, insider transactions and filings, one of the main things that we want to make sure we really introduce is the fact that each trader is different. Each trader will have a subjective viewpoint on the type of information that we are providing, both in the Squawk and the forum environments. And there are certainly many ways to approach this type of information, this type of knowledge. And it really is up to the trader. Always do your due diligence when deciding on a particular trade. So we'll jump right into insider purchases, or as we call them, insider transactions. What do they mean? When you're purchasing, so basically, what is an insider transaction? Insider transaction or a purchase means that a company insider is purchasing equity in the open market. This is not an acquired shares. This is an individual going out into the open marketplace and purchasing equities. So, and this is reported to the SEC. And it is required reporting. There are many forms that someone needs to fill out for insider transactions. And we feel that this is rather important information, and this is why we provide this type of information to our subscribers. So also, what is a filing? A filing is, there are various types of filings. We'll get into the specifics of that, and we'll give you examples of that as well. But basically, it's a rather large investor purchasing a stake, a particular percentage of a particular equity. It could be an activist investor. We'll show you examples of that. And really, why is it important to look at? It's what does the fund see? What does this large investor, this activist investor possibly, what do they see in the security? That's important. And if there's any commentary on the position, certainly with due diligence, you want to do your due diligence when you see information such as this. And that's really important. And more importantly, both for the short term and the long term, what is the market's response to this type of information when we report on specific filings? So also on insider transactions. So let's dive into and really discuss insider transactions. So this is anyone from the CEO, CFO, director level, 10% owners, you'll see purchasing shares in the open market. And we will provide specific type of information when we see this type of insider transaction. So what you'll see or hear in the form and the squawk is, for example, an XXX stock, Director P purchasing 5,000 shares at $5. So what does this mean? It means that a director purchases 5,000 shares of a particular security in the open market at a particular price. And so what's important here? It's number one, it's perfectly legal to purchase stock in the open market. We know it's considered insider transactions, but again, it's reported to the SEC. This is legal, and that's why it's reported. And what's important out of this? These are individuals that work for the security, work for the individual companies, and they use their own capital, their own money to purchase these shares. And so do they know something that we don't? And that's something that's very important to think about and see when we report on this type of these types of transactions. So as we said, they buy these with their own monies. And this is at every level of company insiders. Insiders must comply with SEC regulations, and they have to report these transactions. And so on the filings, these are stakes in companies. This can be anything from institutionals, hedge funds, activist investors. We try to provide as much information as we can when you're seeing this type of information. So for example, you will see particular security, XXX symbol, particular company, J company, reporting a 5.4% stake. And so what does that mean? This means that a particular large investor or particular institutional or hedge fund or various other company reporting a 5.4% stake in of the security within its portfolio. And that's something that's important, and we'll get into the specifics of that in just a moment. So these are institutionals, these are funds, these are various levels of expertise and investments within that are investing in the equities. And again, they report these transactions. They have to report these filings, and so that's we provide this information for you. So let's get into some of the definitions and some of the things that you'll see within the TradeXchange forum and hear about in the squawk. So 13G, these are ownership of over 5% of the security, typically between 5 and 20%, typically a passive investor, and does not plan to become an activist investor, typically. So that's a 13G. A 13D is over 5% of the company, it's a voting class, and they're acquiring shares. So that's why you'll see sometimes 13D filings there. 13F, at times you'll see it. So what is a 13F? Any investment manager who manages more than $100 million under management has to disclose this type of information. And this is a great way of it's basically a window into the holdings of an investment manager. And it's a great way to see what that mentality is of the investment manager, in particular holdings. So other forms. Other forms are 6K, basically duplication of latest financial reports. S1, withdrawal of registration statement, for example, a cancellation of secondaries. And we'll show you some examples of S1 when we a little bit further along in the presentation. So really what you look for, and that is, what is the trader's reaction? what's the background of the stock? Certainly, this is just a few examples of what typically traders watch for and keep in mind when they hear information on insider transactions, when they hear information on filing. So certainly technicals, support resistance levels, fundamentals of the security. Were there earnings recently? Were there any other type of information, PR information, any other news that may influence the fundamentals of the security? What's the liquidity when you're trading this type of security? Also, what's the average daily volume? If you're seeing an insider transactions for, let's use a base example of 250,000 shares purchased, and the stock typically has, we'll use an example of 150,000 share traded per day. Clearly, that's a rather large transaction for a stock like that. So that's something that we look for, and typically traders look for that as well. So how to capitalize on this type of transactions, whether it's a insider transaction or it's a filing. And really what a trader does is they basically assess their own trading style, whether they're more for short-term or long-term trader. They decide whether or not they take a position that's intended to be short-term. Is this a temporary a price action and volume spike in the security, or can this be prolonged environment? Can this be prolonged in the security? If there's initial volume, if there's price action spike, do you participate in that initial spike? Do you participate perhaps in the reversal move? Have your stops in place. Obviously, there's levels, etc. Certainly, risk management is absolute key. And again, each trader has a subjective view on this particular transaction. So a little bit more color for this type of information. Is this the only transaction? Meaning, has there been other similar type of activity in the security, including filings, including insider transactions? Is it consistent insider transactions? And we'll show you some examples of when there was consistent insider transactions. Could be, is this maybe a slow and steady wins the race type situation where a CEO or CFO is consistently purchasing a particular security, and what's that impact over the long term? And really, what's that daily and weekly volatility of the security? A little bit more color. Was this the most recent filing in the stock? Are there others? Is this... will there be other participation of other directors, other C-suite level type individuals? Or is this a one-off type situation, a lone wolf, if you will, taking a stance on a particular security? What's the motive? What's the float on the security? What's the short ratio? What are the analyst opinions on the security? For example, if it's a filing and it's an activist investor, are they going against the grain a little bit? Are they taking a gamble, if you will, on the security? So again, as always, few caveats, always on volume alerts, always look for a volume indication. We look for higher or lower move on particular security, on these particular moves. And again, different traders approach this differently. A trader may take the reversal of information, whether if it's a very short-term move. And again, many ways of approaching this type of information. So some recent examples. One of the most glaring examples as of late is in late 2014, CEO was purchasing consistently in the open market OPK, and we really saw the impact of a consistent rise in the security over time after that CEO was purchasing. And again, initially when that CEO was purchasing the security, there wasn't much reaction by the market. But again, over time, there certainly was an impact. Some other examples, as of late, there was in TISI, Senior Vice President, CFO, various purchases at over $40. You'll see some examples there. These are just examples, that type of information that you'll see within the forum, type of information that you'll see and hear about within the squawk. We wanted to show you 3 particular examples of different form filings that may impact individual security. So GENE, at one point there was a 6K filing reported that a second of 2 NASDAQ deficiencies previously notified to the market has been successfully remediated. And you see a rather significant spike, volume spike, and price action with that type of information. Additionally, we look for Form RW, withdrawal of registration statement. We saw in LOOK an immediate spike in volume. This is one day towards the end of the trading day, and we saw that really response in the market. And lastly, there's Sarepta Therapeutics. There's a 13D filing by Barry Richard showing a 7.66% passive stake. And you see an impact on that particular securities from late morning into midday. Certainly, there's a little bit of a tail off towards that 1:30 time. But again, you see that impact of knowing that type of information and what traders do with that. So this was intended to be a rather brief introduction to insider transactions and filings. We encourage you to submit questions to the Trade Exchange at thetradexchange.com. We thank you for joining us. And again, this will be available as a recording for your convenience on the same webinar site. Thank you for joining us and wishing you a great day.